A sharp jawline is not something most models were just born with. And I know that sounds wrong because we've all looked at a runway photo and thought, okay, that has to be genetics. But there's actually a lot that goes into that look that has nothing to do with your bone structure, and models know exactly what it is. By the end of this video, you're going to understand what actually creates that defined, sculpted jawline, and what's probably standing between you and it right now. Here's the problem most people don't realize they have. You could have a great bone structure underneath and have absolutely no idea because something is hiding it, and that something is almost never what people think it is. Most women assume a soft jawline is just how their face is shaped, that it's fixed, that the only way to change it would be something extreme like surgery or filler. But models, women who are paid specifically because of how their face looks on camera, figured out a long time ago that your jawline is one of the most changeable things about your face. Not through surgery, through understanding what's actually causing the softness in the first place. And when you find out what that is, it's honestly kind of frustrating because it's been sitting right in front of you the whole time. The first thing models address is facial bloating, and this is the big one. Bloating isn't just something that happens to your stomach, it happens to your face too. And most people are walking around with a permanently slightly bloated face, and they've just accepted it as their normal. The main driver of facial bloating is sodium. Salt makes your body hold onto water, and your face is one of the first places that water retention shows up. You can see it most around the jaw, the cheeks, and under the eyes. That soft, slightly puffy look that makes features look less defined, a lot of the time, that's just water sitting in your face because of how much sodium you're taking in. Models are very aware of this. Before a shoot or a show, sodium is one of the first things they cut back on. Not because they're starving themselves, but because they know that even a small reduction in sodium makes their face look visibly sharper within days. The average person consumes way more sodium than they think, not because they're adding salt to everything, but because it's hidden inside processed foods, sauces, dressings, packaged snacks, things that don't even taste salty. Bread is one of the biggest hidden sources of sodium that most people never think about. If you've never paid attention to how much sodium you're eating, and your jawline feels soft or undefined, this is the first place to look. The fix isn't complicated. Drink more water, and this sounds counterintuitive, but when you're well hydrated, your body actually holds onto less water, not more. Cut back on processed foods, and give it about a week to see what your face actually looks like without the extra fluid sitting in it. The second thing is something that models almost never skip, and that most regular people have never heard of: lymphatic drainage. Your lymphatic system is basically your body's drainage system. It moves fluid and waste out of your tissues. When it's working well, fluid doesn't build up. When it's sluggish, which happens from sitting too much, not moving enough, or just living a sedentary life, fluid starts to pool in different areas of your body. In your face, this shows up as puffiness, especially in the lower face and jaw area. Models and the facialists they work with do specific things to keep lymphatic flow moving in the face. The most common one is facial massage. Not just any massage, but a specific technique where you're moving fluid downward toward the lymph nodes in your neck, which is where it drains out. You've probably seen the gua sha trend. That's not just a skincare thing. The reason gua sha works for face sculpting is because done correctly, it physically moves fluid out of areas where it's been sitting. That's why your face can look noticeably more defined right after you do it properly. You don't need to spend money on a fancy tool. Your hands work. The technique matters more than the product. Start from the center of your face and move outward and downward, always moving toward the neck. Do it in the morning when your face is most puffy from lying down, and you'll see a difference pretty quickly. Exercise also helps lymphatic drainage overall. Your lymphatic system doesn't have a pump the way your cardiovascular system does. It relies on movement to keep things flowing. This is another reason why models who work out consistently tend to have sharper facial features. It's not just about being thin. Movement literally keeps fluid from building up. The third thing is the one that takes the longest but makes the biggest permanent difference: body fat percentage and overall inflammation. Your jawline is partly structural. It's your bone, but it's also partly fat. Subcutaneous fat, which is the fat that sits just under the skin, distributes across your body, including your face. And when overall body fat is higher, some of that fat sits along the jaw and lower face. This doesn't mean you need to be extremely thin to have a defined jawline, but it does mean that if you're carrying excess weight, some of it is sitting in your face. And as you reduce body fat overall through diet and exercise, your face changes too. Models tend to have low body fat percentages, and their diets reflect that. High protein, lots of vegetables, minimal processed food, minimal sugar. Not crash dieting, consistent habits over time that keep their body fat in a range where their features are naturally more defined. The other part of this is inflammation. Chronic inflammation, which comes from things like poor sleep, high sugar intake, alcohol, and chronic stress, causes your face to look puffy and tired on a deeper level than just water retention. It's not fluid, it's your body responding to things that are irritating it. Internally, sugar is a big one here. When you eat a lot of sugar, your body produces more of a hormone called insulin, and over time, high insulin levels promote inflammation throughout your body, including in your face. This is separate from the glycation issue that affects your skin's quality. It also just physically makes your face look puffier and less defined. Alcohol is another major one, and we've talked about this before. It causes both dehydration and inflammation at the same time, which is a particularly bad combination for how your face looks. Cutting back on sugar and alcohol consistently, not perfectly, but consistently, is one of the things that has a visible effect on how defined your face looks over weeks and months. The fourth thing is the one that sounds the strangest but is backed by actual research. Chewing. Your jaw muscles are muscles, and like any muscle in your body, they respond to use. The more you use them, the more developed and defined they become. The less you use them, the weaker and less visible they get. Modern diets are incredibly soft. Most of what we eat requires very little chewing. Smoothies, yogurt, bread, pasta, processed snacks. Compared to what humans were eating even a few hundred years ago, our jaws barely have to work. Some models and wellness people have started paying attention to this. Chewing harder foods consistently, raw vegetables, tougher proteins, things that actually require your jaw to work, naturally exercises the masseter muscle, which is the main muscle that sits along the side of your jaw and creates that angular look. Mewing is another thing that comes up in this space. It's a technique where you rest your tongue flat against the roof of your mouth instead of letting it sit at the bottom. The idea is that tongue posture affects how your facial muscles develop and how forward your jaw sits. There's debate about how dramatic the effects are in adults, but the basic concept that how you hold your face at rest matters for how it looks over time is not unreasonable. So here's what this actually looks like if you put it all together. A sharp jawline in models almost always comes from a combination of these things working together. Low sodium intake that reduces water retention, consistent lymphatic drainage through massage and movement, low body fat and low inflammation from clean eating and limiting sugar and alcohol, and regular use of jaw muscles through what they eat. None of this is surgery, none of it is filler. It's habits. Consistent ones that slowly shift what your face looks like over time. The frustrating truth is that there's no single trick. But the good news is that most of these things have other benefits too. Better skin, more energy, less bloating in your body overall. The jawline is almost like a side effect of just taking care of yourself in very specific ways. Your bone structure is what it is, but what's sitting on top of it? The fluid, the fat, the muscle, that's more in your control than most people realize. Subscribe for more videos like this one.